Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Kavan Talks on yet another important issue that concerns us as a democracy, as a country, which is communal violence or communal rights. Now, however, many people, however, would argue that semantics and terminologies matter a lot when we talk about communal violence and seek to address this problem. Now, when we seek to address when we seek a solution to this problem, a lot of people argue that it's important to talk about semantics. It's important to talk about terminologies. Now, this is why we have decided to keep this event titled "Is Delhi Riot Is Delhi Violence 2020 a riot or a pogrom?" So, I mean, it's important to understand. It's important to decipher, and we all know. I mean, many of us know that there's a difference between a riot and a pogrom. A riot is an event where different communities engage with each other in violence, whereas a pogrom is an event where violence is organized against a specific community. So to understand if Delhi violence 2020 was a pogrom or riot, as Delhi police has been claiming that this was a riot, Delhi our government is claiming that this was a riot. A section of media is also claiming that this was a riot, while international media like Times, Guardian, and a lot of other international media are claiming that this was a riot. International organizations with Supreme Court advocate and record with Supreme Court of India and was instrumental in the fact-finding report and Delhi violence by Delhi Minority Commission. Mr. Shamshad headed the report, and it was under his supervision that the report was drafted. It was under his supervision that the entire data was collected, report was drafted. So, welcome, Mr. Shamshad, to this talk, and all of you who are here as participants. Can you hear us? Can you hear me, Mr. Shamshad?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Yeah. So, in the introduction to the report, you have written that violence was an organized pogrom against a community. Why do you think so? The casualties are on both sides, aren't they?
Yes, true. First of all, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to explain this. See, in the report we have started with the background how this entire thing came up to a situation when a particular group was being targeted. So it is very important to first explain the once this CAA movement, anti-CAA protesters movement became nationwide movement, even international media was covering it, and not only in India, at different in the different parts of the world, the protests were being organized. Then in India, certain things were happening parallelly. I mean to say that there were many politicians who were trying to convey a message that this movement is completely an unnecessary thing which should be dispelled. Even in parliament, people were the members of parliament of ruling party, they were talking completely something which should not be permitted to be expressed from the forum of parliament. The politicians said so many things which were in the nature of preparing the general public to come out and indulge into violence, like issue of rape, like attacking mosque, like if you don't agree with Boli, then we will use Goli. These type of things were going on, and then after 23rd, this violence started, and this violence had a particular pattern. That is the reason that's the reason why we have stated this to be pogrom. Now, since you have started, so you have asked for specifics about it, so let me give you a few examples. Obviously, in addition to the background, See, if you examine how these people, how this riot, which these people are saying it was merely a riot, how this has happened, how a particular community has been targeted. Yes, I will come to the fact that both the side, a person belonging to both the communities have been killed. But if you see the attacks on properties, if you see the attacks on religious places, if you see how women of a particular community was targeted, then you will realize that why it was not merely a communal riot. I will give you example of how this happened. See, we went to many areas in the riot affected places. Like, if you go to a place called Shiv Vihar, where a lot of houses were burned and looted, people were attacked, the vehicles were burned. I'll give you only one example there. There is a gully in that area where there are 30 houses. Out of 30 houses, there are 27 houses which belong to Muslim community and 3 houses to non-Muslim. Why only 3 were left? That's the question. Why all 27 houses were attacked, destroyed, burned, looted, and the persons occupying the house were attacked? Similarly, if you go to Ganga Vihar area, all the houses of only Muslims were attacked, targeted. You go to a place called Delhi Darbar Market in Bhajanpura. There are about 40 odd shops. This is a lane where there are 40 shops. Out of 40 shops, only 2 shops were of Muslims. Both were attacked, looted. You go to Johoripur Nala, there are about 4 houses which belong to Muslims. Only these 4 houses were attacked. You go to Munga Nagar market, only Muslims houses and shops were targeted. You go to a place called Chuna Bhatti area in Krawal Nagar area. 5 Muslim shop, only Muslim shop were targeted. No other shops were touched. Now, if you
So
see, yes,
yeah, so Shamshad, Mr. Shamshad, I would want to understand. I mean, you're talking about destruction of properties belonging to a particular community. I also read that in report when you talk about Shiv Vihar, when you talk about other places, and then you say that certain properties belonging to a specific community, which is Muslim community, have been targeted in a very planned manner. Like at places when there were 20 Muslim houses, 17 Muslim houses, 17 of them were attacked, and then the 3 of them were left. So this shows that the violence was planned. But how did the casualty? I mean, we would like to understand. And as a lawyer, what is your understanding of the violence of the killings that took place on the other side? I mean, a lot of because this entire theory coming out from Delhi police is that the entire theory coming out from central government is that people from both sides have been killed, and there are statistics which show that Hindus have also died in this violence. Are you suggesting that this was an act carried out in self-defense with the Muslim community when mobs came out to attack them?
let me give you an example. See, the protest was going on in Shaheen Bagh. Protest
Yeah,
was going on in Nizamuddin.
yeah.
Protests were going on at different places in Delhi. Similarly, protests were going on in Northeast Delhi at different locations, and one of them was Jafrabad. The these were anti CAA protests. Somebody comes up with pro CAA protest at Mojpur metro station. Now see, if this is going on, this protest till that time was peaceful protest, completely peaceful protest, no rioting, nothing, no violence was reported till then. Prior to that, see, Ram Bhakt Gopal had entered to one of the protest in South Delhi Jamia. There was one Kapil Gujjar who had entered in the peaceful protest of Shaheen Bagh. But these protesters were doing peacefully till that time. Same way till 23rd of February, the protest in Northeast Delhi was peaceful. There is no case that they were indulging in violence. Now, after 23rd of February, if a parallel protest is arranged to counter a existing ongoing peaceful protest, and there somebody says that I will take law in my hands if the police don't act in a particular manner, and then the matter moves like that, okay, if the police is not removing them from the protest sites, we will do it, and you go and attack them. Obviously, when there is a protest where 200 or 500 protesters are peacefully protesting, and 500 or 1000 persons come and say that you have to get out from here, obviously there is going to be counter from the other side who were there in that process. But you can't attribute this action to the person who have been protesting there for a month or 20 days prior to that. So this is
Right.
the process in which it has been done. But this obviously all the killings, all the death are unfortunate. 40 Muslims and 13 Hindus. This is the data which the Delhi police has given, that the people have died. But that is because of the reason I have explained to you just now. It is not for the
Right.
reason that the Muslims had been preparing something to attack Hindus, and in that process they were killed.
Right, right, right. So it is also being said, I mean, a large section of media has reported it, and it has also attributed your report, the Delhi Minority Commission report, and has blamed Kapil Mishra specifically for being a major reason why this violence was incited. Now, Kapil Mishra is someone who belongs to BJP. He was earlier with Aam Aadmi Party, and to ironically also with Amnesty International at a point of time. So Kapil Mishra is someone who has been blamed. From a lot of quarters. Now, Kapil Mishra is being blamed, but then when you talk about the pattern of the violence and the killings that take place, the disruptions that take place, the manner in which properties are destroyed, it looks that this would have been planned for a very long time, because you cannot just go and chalk out 17 houses and burn them. You cannot identify things in a couple of hours. This would need some planning. This would need some time. So, do you think Kapil Mishra was a part of that planning, or you think that Kapil Mishra's speech led to violence, which was spontaneous, filled in with anger among the majority community against people who were protesting and Muslims in general?
See, on that, I will just put it like this. It was Kapil Mishra's statement which triggered the violence. He may have been involved in the planning, may not have been involved in the planning earlier. I don't have that evidence. But I must say, the way things were happening for last 1.5 months, December end, leaders from a particular political party had started giving statements targeting the protest sites. See, if you'd say about the protest site in the parliament itself, that this protest is an example of Mughal era coming back in India in constitutional democracy. You say that Muslims are such a nasty people that they have done something in Kashmir and they are going to do the same thing in the streets of Delhi. You are saying something that if you won't listen from Boli, we will use Goli. These things were going on which were sufficient indication to the followers of these people that you have to be ready for this eventuality. And in that background, I am of my view that yes, these people had started planning, they had started earmarking that what is going to be the method of attack, who are going to be the target of theirs, which are the areas where these people are located. See, otherwise, I'll tell you that if there is a house and there are three families living, ground floor, first floor, and second floor, these people knew that ground and first are occupied by other than Muslim, and second floor, who is the owner of the property, has to be targeted. This was done in
Right.
in a house in Bhagirathi Vihar.
Right.
How do somebody know overnight that this particular floor is occupied by whom? Nobody, until and unless somebody had planned something. See, even I'll tell you, there is a complaint which records, which police has registered an FIR, that in the evening of 23rd and 24th, there were announcements in the streets through mic saying that Hindus have to come out on the street and group together so that Muslims could be attacked. So it can't be all of a sudden. There had to be some planning which they must have done. Who all were involved, Delhi police is not coming out very clear.
Right, right, right. And I mean, there's also been talks around Chakka Jam by an organization in Northeast Delhi just a day before the violence erupted in Northeast Delhi, and that was 22nd of February, as far as I remember, as far as I recall. So, as a fact-finding team, as people who investigated what happened to the ground, do you think this Chakka Jam and this road blockade on the day Bharat Bandh was called in by a Dalit leader did have any impact? Did have any reason in the violence that broke out? I mean, did it also play a role, or it was just an escapist route that Delhi police and the government of India were taking to blame it on the protesters?
See, for that, I'll come to that. Before this, I must say that the protest related to what? Protest related to the most basic issue of citizenship.
No,
And
that is completely okay. But what they're saying
so
is that
I am just coming to that.
Yep.
This issue was in relation to the very existence of an individual who was already being treated as citizen of this country. About this issue, the entire civil society in the country, judges, lawyers, and even international fora had taken a view that this was a discriminatory act. This
Right.
was being protested. It is not as if one murder had taken place and that murder was being protested, or it was a localized issue or a small time issue which was being protested. So considering this magnitude and significance of this issue, the protest also had to be had to have some kind of proportional effect on it. That is the reason. That is the reason at many places, because the anger, the anguish, the seriousness was so much that the people had come on the road, and though they were doing peacefully, but at many places the roads were blocked. And in any protest, considering the magnitude of it and considering the issue of it, sometime things go out of hand and roads are blocked. Same thing had happened probably in this case. And because of this, once if the road has been blocked, that you have to understand what is the issue. I completely agree that as far as possible, the road should not have been blocked. But if the road has been blocked and the issue is such a serious issue, taking this issue that somebody came on road and that's why somebody had justification, or somebody can justify that I will take law into my hands, that was not correct. That's
Absolutely.
probably
That's
was
the
magnified.
responsibility of it's police responsibility to deal with that. I mean, people cannot take law in their hands. That's perfectly all right. And then we have seen these protests happening all over India. It was not just the first time that anti-CA protests were happening. We've seen similar road jams, similar chakka jams. So that has been happening. I mean, in India. So we cannot blame. That's certainly true that we cannot blame it on
So
that.
add, see, if you see that reservation in Rajasthan, all
Yeah.
the trains were blocked. At
Right.
least
Right.
these protesters did not go to that extent. They were on the
Absolutely.
streets. They were on some road. That doesn't mean that you go in the mohalla and target the entire community like this. There is no
Right.
justification that some two, three, four girls came and they said that you please come on the road. And that's why you are trying to justify your act of killing on such a mass level in which Hindu also got killed.
Right,
It's
right,
not
right, right, right. So we also talk about police role in this violence. I mean, and I, as a journalist, also went in that area post violence, and we heard a lot of complaints coming in from people that police was not responding to calls, despite several calls made by local residents, some of them by doctors also who worked in that area. Police did not respond to them, and police kept on ignoring these calls. At times, their response was rude and abusive too. So, and apart from that, you've also mentioned in the report that police has also been involved in direct violence at times, and police has been and when it comes to investigation of of the violence, police has played a very partisan roles. At some instances, it has not filed a complaint or an FIR in certain cases, especially when you talk about that Mohan nursing home, the shooting from that Mohan nursing home. So why do you think this bias is? Why do you think this reaction from police is coming? Is it because of natural bias in the police force, which has creeped it into a certain period of time, or is it because there is some pressure at because you investigated this violence, and you would definitely be talking to policemen also who were part of the investigation. So what did you figure out? I mean, it was just a natural bias among policemen, or there was some pressure from coming from the top to behave to act in a certain way?
Yeah, I'll say two, three things on this. You talk about bias in such communal violences. Police's role has never been very clean. Never. Recently, in Hashimpura case, the Delhi High Court said that it was a case of targeted killing, revealing an institutional bias. So, if the court uses these words that there was an institutional bias, what happened in Gujarat? What happened in 84 riots in Delhi? It was about Delhi riots. Also, similar kind of observations have come. See what happened in Muzaffarnagar. See, if you see now, Muzaffarnagar riots, that boy Shahnawaz on one side and Gaurav and Sachin on the other side. The alleged killers of Gaurav and Sachin have been convicted and they are in jail, but the person who allegedly killed Shahnawaz is out. He got bail very soon. So what is this? What does this reflect? This is part of the bias which comes out of the institutions. Same thing has happened here. I will tell you why. Because see, everything happened for 4 days, from 23rd or 24th to 26th, 27th. Somebody attacked, somebody killed, there was a counter killing. Now, the police investigates one set of crime on priority and they file different charge sheets. Which are those charge sheets? Those charge sheets are against killing and conspiracy of killing of that Mr. Sharma, an employee of IB, that Shahrukh Pathan's revolver. So these are the investigations which had been taken up by the police on priority, and they prepared charge sheet and released it to public domain. Now, parallelly, if somebody's house is being attacked, someone else from the other community has been killed, why did you keep that investigation pending? You are trying to prioritize one set of investigation to send a message that let us build a perception against particular community and then we will see if we can do something against them or not. By that time, by that time you would have created certain public perception in public domain. First of all, this is incorrect. Second, I have quoted many examples that how these complaints which name the local people have not been investigated upon, and those named people have not yet been arrested. What is the justification of that? Why investigation and charge sheet has not been done? There is a second, there is a third category. Third category means that the person whose house has been attacked. Now, the earlier I said about those which are very serious cases. Now those houses have been attacked. In them also there are people named. Now you have not arrested anybody. Those people who have lost every single penny of their earnings of entire life, the person has not been arrested. Rather, they are getting threatening calls from those people saying that you withdraw those complaints. There are recorded facts. So, if the police is not going to help them out under such serious circumstances, what do you do? And about police's participation. Now you have seen Fazan's case, the five boys who were being harassed by the police, and the police was telling them to chant a particular thing. What action has been taken on that incident? Nobody knows. The Imam of Faruqiya Masjid, he says in the hospital, which is recorded video, saying that police has beaten me. What action has been taken against on that issue? Nobody knows what has happened. So the police is being seen breaking the video camera, which is public property. What complaint has been lodged against it? Nobody knows. See, he showed that the police was, stone pelting with the Reuters on Muslims. What has happened? Nobody knows. There are thousands and hundreds of complaints which they say that he kept calling police. Police never came. Police was rather standing there. They were sitting in their gypsies. These people went for help. They did not come out of those gypsies. What do you do? So this was the state of affairs, and in this background, I have said in the report.
Right, right, right. And so we also saw in the report, I mean, this has also come out in the report in detail that uh, uh, this police was, I mean, there's something that I read in the report. I need to recall it. I have made a note. I'll just give me a second. Just give me a second. Yeah, so I mean, it's quite apparent, quite visible in the report. I mean, what from what comes out in the report, that police role has been quite partisan, and police has done a one-sided investigation, and police has is motivated with a certain is motivated with a certain cause, certain political ideology, certain pressure. I mean, there is something which is motivating police to work in a certain manner. Now, we all know that for judiciary to operate, for judiciary to work efficiently, police investigation is an important role, important component of it. As long as the police investigation is not concrete, as long as the police investigation is not solid, it becomes a little difficult for judiciary to execute its responsibilities. Now, how do you see this in the pursuit of justice? Because police, it looks, is not fair in its investigation. Police is not doing the work that it should be doing. Police is acting in a manner which looks motivated, motivated for a certain political understanding, or a certain, or it has a certain inherent bias to it. Now, how do you see justice being delivered in such circumstances? It becomes very difficult for people to get justice. As a lawyer, how do you understand that?
See, for that, let me respond. There are basic problems in our country as far as criminal investigation process is concerned. It is a really serious problem, and it is in the interest of society at large that everybody should come at the same platform and deal with it. The biggest problem starts from the very inception. if you have any problem or you have faced with certain cognizable offense, first of all, police is not agreeable to acknowledge your complaint. That is the basic problem. You have to struggle with the police for simple acknowledgement of receipt of your complaint. And this is pan India. This is not localized problem either in Delhi or in Kerala, or yes, in some part it is little lesser. In north it is a very serious issue.
Right.
North India. Now, there are certain instances where the police told these guys in Roit affected area that why your complaint has named the accused, I will not accept it. You go, give me a complaint without naming any person. The person, because his property has been looted, burned, he would think these are poor people. They will go back and they will remove the name, come and give it to the police, and the police then will record DD entry. After 5 days, when he consults, society at large and tells people that, see, these were the people, then he tells him that why you have not named him. Then he goes back to the police. Now police says that, sorry, you are lying because in the first complaint you have not named somebody. So this is the state of affairs, and it is not a single instance. It has happened at mass level. Second, you take the complaint, don't lodge into register, don't convert it into FIR. What is this? The Supreme Court says that it is mandatory, not obligatory. It is rather mandatory upon the police to register the FIR the moment it is the police is informed about happening of cognizable offense. The only scope with the police is that they will do preliminary inquiry to the extent whether this information which has been disclosed reveals cognizable offense or not. They can't stop it for any other ground. They are under obligation. But the problem is the Supreme Court judgment is there, nobody follows it, and no action is taken by either by court or the higher officers in the police mechanism itself for non-registration of FIR against cognizable offense. So this is a second problem. Third problem is what I said just now. If after a struggle somebody lodges the FIR, succeeds in registering the FIR, the police will do its investigation as per their whims and fancies and discretion. Two complaints they have got simultaneously. One has gone in the dustbin for 6 months, and one has been prioritized. This is not equal protection. This is not equal. This is not justice. This is not equal treatment to the victims of crime. So all these things are required to be looked into, and these all violations have taken place in this Delhi riots, I can say.
Okay, okay. So, Mr. Chamshad, I would also like to understand. I mean, I read an article on Wire about about women being subjected to violence, and we have seen in the past also that women are largely subjected to sexual violence in a situation like this, because there is this Brahmanical notion of honor associated with a woman's body, and that notion is and therefore these writers and people who lead the pogrom or lead the violence attack women's body, attacks women's sexuality, so that it because in their notion, in their in that Brahmanical notion, attacking a woman's body means that you're attacking the honor of a community. So how are women subjected to violence in this violence in Delhi?
See, this is again a matter of targeting the community.
Yeah.
See, if a lady is wearing hijab and her hijab or burqa is snatched by saying that, all right, we are giving you freedom now, that means you are not only attacking the woman because she belongs to a particular community of being woman. You are giving impression that, see, Muslims have kept you under captivity. That's why this is hijab and this concept is Islam. So we are giving you azadi from the concept that you yourself feel to be very sacred for you. The
Right.
same way, why only mosques were made, were targeted? All the mosques, about 13, 14 mosques and madrasas and the religious books, they were targeted. Even there is a statement to say that, see, this is the book which you respect a lot. See what I am doing with your book. This kind of a statement has come. The same way they have treated with the woman, saying that, all right, your dignity, you feel that you are covering, you are wearing burqa, this is how we will treat you. We will give you azadi, and we will do in Jai Shri Ram name, with the slogan of Jai Shri Ram. This is not the thing which Lord Ram would have liked, but these people have done it, all to attack the concept of identity, which probably these people did not want. See, the entire CAA protest was what? Because the concept was that, you know, you can be targeted while you are going to exercise your civil rights. You are being party to the mainstream of the system, so we will exclude you from this. So this kind of entire process was sought to be attacked through the CAA or NPR or NRC, and this is the concept which came out in a different shape, where the violence took place.
While I saw some trolls reacting to the report on Twitter today itself, which include a leader like Kapil Mishra also saying things about Zafrul Islam Khan, who was the chairman of Delhi Minority Commission. So they have reacted on Twitter. But has there been any official reaction coming in from any quarter? Has the government reacted to this report or reached out to you for to talk about the recommendations that you make towards the end of the report? Has there been any reaction yet from government authorities?
I don't know, because we gave the report to the commission. Now it was for the commission to interact with the government, and probably the commission has already submitted the report to the Lieutenant Governor as well as the Chief Minister of Delhi. And in a meeting, the Chief Minister of Delhi has acknowledged report having received by his office. So I don't know what action the government has taken. But as far as you are saying about the Twitter, etc., see, till now nobody has been able to point out that even a single line of the report is wrong, factually wrong. See, to target the report, you are going on a altogether different issue to target somebody and say that because this person has was the chairman when this report came, then that is completely wrong. See, in the process of this
Right.
preparation and finalization, submission, the chairman of the Minority Commission had no role. It was for us 9-member committee to do the fact finding and prepare and finalize the report, which we did. Now, to attack the report, you are attacking somebody who had nothing to do with the report, though he was Minority Commission chairman. That's it.
Right. So we would open, I mean, we have 10 of 15 more minutes left for this conversation to be over. But I would ask one last question from you. This might not be relevant to you as a lawyer, but then since we are looking at all spectrums of the violence and which also includes politics. I mean, we have been talking about central government being hostile to a lot of things. We have been talking about leaders of the central government even going on to the extent that they played a role in instigating violence. But then there is a so-called secular and progressive party here in Delhi, and that party could have played a role in stopping the. Although we understand that police is not directly under the control of that government, but then what did this government in Delhi do on its own to stop that violence? Did it take any immediate action when it got to know that the violence has broken out? What did you find? I mean, and then we have also come across issues of compensation. A lot of people have still been running from pillar to post for compensation. I mean, why has this government not been able to deliver compensation to the victims yet? So how do you see that? I mean, is there any hostility for the government in Delhi too, or is it playing safe? Is it playing pragmatic politics?
Yes, your last statement is, I think, much more near to the fact that they are just trying to play politics. See, when you saw Corona issue emerging, they came out and took a stand that I will go and file FIR against XYZ people. Obviously, I am indicating towards people belonging to Tablighi Jamaat.
Right.
But when this communal right issue came, there were many officers which were under the control of Delhi government. These people must have been instructed, if the Delhi government was even little vigilant, to go and camp in the right affected areas where they apprehended something might happen. They did not do that. Why? That's the question, and a big question that this government will have to reply at some point of time. You can't take a shelter that only Delhi police is not under my control, so I will wash off everything from my hands. No, sorry, this is a wrong approach. Yes, certainly police is not with you. You are fighting, you are contesting to appoint your public prosecutor for general cases. Why? If Delhi police is not yours, I'm not saying that Delhi police, the Delhi government has no right to do this. They have legitimate right. So at some point, wherever it suits, you can't say that I will assert my right and other point I will not. So this is one issue. I am of the view that Delhi government was in a position to do much better, things, and play much role during riots. Second, you said about compensation. This entire issue comes within the domain of Delhi government. Yes, additional package could have come from the central government, but largely the issue of compensation is with Delhi government. Now, what has happened? Even the inquiry and verification of damaged house have not been completed till now after 4 5 months. Why you are not coming out and explaining it, that why this happened? See, during COVID, 14, 1,500 persons have been arrested. Delhi police says that I have filed 200 charge sheets. So for taking away civil liberties, COVID has no matter. But when the issue comes to granting benefit to the citizens, they can't say that, sorry, because of this lockdown, we are not in a position to do this. Compensation is a serious issue. The poor people whose entire earning of whole life has gone, now these people are being subjected to run from pillar to post. Why? Yes, I understand the compensation commissioner has been appointed, but still that is a process for a victim. Till the time the compensation amount is not paid, it doesn't matter to him that what process it is and what kind of problem the government is facing. It is responsibility and it is obligation of the government elected by general public that they should go and give it to the public, give it to the sufferers, give it to the victims. So the compensation aspect is completely lacking. That needs to be addressed on priority. So this I can't give a clean chit to Delhi government. Now,
The Delhi government as
then,
well, right?
then the one more thing. See, you have started with the other governments, etc. I must say,
Yeah.
because the last question, I must say, See, this entire this culture of lynching which has emerged in last 5, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, you may say, started probably 2012, 13.
Right.
Now, most of the target is of particular community.
Right.
But once this movement started in Bulandshahr, a police officer in the police station was attacked and killed, and that was
Right.
also lynching. So once
Right.
you don't come on the road to protest something wrong happening, where all this movement will go, where all this crime will go, nobody knows. Right now it may be a particular community. So I am saying that everybody who think that this is the thing which should not happen, they should raise their voice, and we have tried raising that voice at some forum.
Right, right, right. Thank you, Mr. Shamshad, for answering all our questions with all your honesty and with firm conviction and determination to get justice for the victims of Delhi pogrom, as you would say, as you would call it. Now, I invite guests here in the list to ask questions to Mr. Samshad. If you want to ask something, you can just type in your question in the message, and I would ask on your behalf to. I would ask that question on your behalf to Mr. Shamshad. Anyone has a question? Just yeah, just
Carry on, brother. Carry on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyone has a question? Someone would want to ask a question?
No, no, no,
Okay, okay,
no, no,
okay, okay.
no. Please, please,
No, no.
please.
There's a question. There's a question from Naina. There's a question from Naina. Can you hear me, Mr. Shamshad?
Yes, please.
Yeah, there's a question from Naina Singh. There's a question from Naina. Naina wants to know what about the case against Tahir Hussain? I mean, it's just a one-liner, but I would add to it. I mean, do you think that Tahir Hussain has also been unfairly treated by Delhi police? And there are videos doing rounds that before Tahir Hussain, before there were videos doing rounds that an attack was being launched at the residence of Tahir Hussain. So how do you see this treatment meted out to Tahir Hussain, who also happens to be a party member of Aam Aadmi Party, and party did not take any stand for him. Party dissociated with him completely. What do you think about this case, and how do you see this? How do you see this case to be? Do you think it's a strong case which can hold in the court of law, or it will fall flat?
See, the worst thing that has been done with Tahir Hussain is his case has been picked up, and the police has said that we have investigated, and thereafter the police has come up with a conspiracy theory against him for killing of Mr. Sharma. Now, with a caveat that the matter is already pending trial, I will not be able to get into intricacies, but I must say that this charge sheet which I have read, this charge sheet is narration like you plead something in writ petition, unverified, unrelated facts coming out as a story without putting certain things, supported by evidence. The charge sheet is complete, a story of anti-CAA protesters, and in that theory, the, the police has sought to create a conspiracy of this gentleman. Now, how far this will hold good in the eyes of criminal law, I don't know. The court will have to decide. But this is what the charge sheet is. I can't say beyond.
Perfect. I think we will take three questions. There are three questions, and I think one is from Zahra Mehndi, who wants to know: does the semantic difference of calling the violence a pogrom than a riot affect the legal proceedings?
The answer to this is the IPC Indian Penal Code in India don't define what is pogrom.
Right.
But yes, in our process, in our legal system, there is a very established concept of targeted killing. And this targeted killing in common parlance in Indian system, in Indian criminal justice system, we understand it as pogrom. Now, whether it is pogrom or not, the court has to see whether somebody killed the other person or not. So this concept of pogrom may be good for discussion like we are having just now, but for the
Right.
court system, the court needs evidence, court needs proof, and if that proof is good, he or she will be convicted.
Perfect. Now there's another question from Mangala Dilip. Mangala Dilip wants to know: how can general public make actionable demand of the government? How can we ensure that the pogrom is investigated? Other than signing petitions, are there legal ways in which we can demand the release of the student protesters?
See, voice of civil society always matters, and I would say that the more honest we are in expressing our justified concerns, the more it will serve the system at large, and obviously somewhere it will have some effect on the victims' rights in the judicial process.
Right. I think Praveen Ashok has a comment to make. It's not, doesn't look like a question. These batch of incidents are a part of the larger design and shall not be seen in isolation besides this NRC CAA. It shall be part of the larger design of subjugation of Muslims, Dalits, and similar groups that have been recorded historically. I think that's a meaningful observation by Praveen. Now we will take one last question, and that one last question is uh, the policeman who was standing next to Kapil Mishra when the speech was made hasn't been summoned or fetched out. Also, Jay Muralidhar pointed out at this point just before his transfer took place. I mean, what is happening? Why is the court not taking suo motu of it?
See, in the past, on many occasions, I will again come back to Muzaffarnagar riots. After 4 or 5 days of the riot having started in Muzaffarnagar, the Supreme Court had started hearing the pleas filed by many people. There were 15, 20 or 30 petitions which had been filed, and all were entertained, and all the reports were called from the government, and the government had to file entire details as to, there was a category of rape cases, there was a category of rehabilitation and compensation, the third category was murder cases, the another category was, how the properties were being taken away. So all these petitions, now generally in many such cases, when even the court understands how police functions in our country, the court takes cognizance of these facts and appropriate orders are passed. In this case, the attempts were there from students, from the civil society members, but the courts considered it prudent not to interfere. So I can't say beyond, because it would have been right step for the court to pass certain directions and see how the citizens are being treated by police and the administration, which unfortunately did not happen in this case. And as far as the observation that somebody said that this can't be looked in isolation, the protest. Yes, I completely agree with this. That when this protest was going on, parallelly there were leaders who were making damaging and disparaging statements, and obviously those statements contributed to this.
Right. So, I mean, I would not want to end this conversation right now. I would want it to go for another hour, but then we are short of time, and I did commit to everyone that it's going to be only for 1 hour. So, thank you so much, Mr. Shamshad, for joining us and for all your responses. It's just been brilliant, and I think we all thoroughly enjoyed the conversation in the sense that we all gained a lot of knowledge from it, and we got to understand things a little differently from what is being told to us. So thank you everyone, including Mr. Shamshad and all those who have been there in the audience. I see that people have been completely stuck to this. I mean, generally what happens in Zoom conversation is that people move in and move out, but then all of them have been consistent here. That shows that how important this conversation was for everyone here, and how passionately they were involved in this conversation. Now I have a small request to make. We will send you a video recording of this conversation. We would want you to disseminate this video, because we also want right information to float through internet. We also want right information to disseminate among citizens. So we would do our bit in making sure that we disseminate information which is authentic, which is not biased, which is any propaganda or any request. All of you to share that video on your social media handles so that we are able to disseminate this video properly. Thank you so much, Mr. Shamshad, and all others who joined in today. We will have a next conversation probably over the next week with someone else, and would want all of you to come back and join us then again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.